a lot of you guys know that I make singing videos on YouTube and I put out content on the internet for fun, a lot of fun. So today, in the midst of COVID-19 and all of that, I decided I was going to make bread. No one can find bread at the grocery store right now in South Central Kentucky. And plus, I got this recipe from my mom. So let's see if it works. Okay, so maybe I'll type out the recipe and put it in the comments. I don't know. This is the first time I've ever made a video like this and put it on the internet, so let's see how much flack I get for what I do wrong. Anyone that knows me knows I'm not a baker, so this should be hilarious. Alright, so I need to put 4 teaspoons of yeast in here with warm water, which I've already heated up. And I hope it's not so hot that it will, kill my yeast, but we'll see. Yeah, that's really warm. I'm afraid it's gonna kill my yeast. So, yeah, I'm gonna get some cold water, or some warmish water. Okay, that's better. I am looking at this recipe on my iPad, so forgive me. Alright, so there's 2 cups of water, and we need 4 teaspoons of yeast. This is active dry yeast. I'm just supposed to add the yeast and stir it around to dissolve. Alright, so we're gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright. Get one of all of these silicone things and stir this around a little. Yay! So this recipe is called a KitchenAid bread. KitchenAid mixer bread. So I am going to use a KitchenAid mixer to do this. Hopefully my yeast blooms and does all the stuff it's supposed to. Oh gosh, I made the bowl make a sound. So yeah, I'm gonna put this back in the fridge. All right, so now we want to add salt, oil, honey, eggs, and 3 cups of our flour. Eek. At this point, it doesn't say to. I'm just gonna start putting stuff in. Okay, so 2 teaspoons of salt. Look, I'm fancy. I measured everything out and you can't even see it because I only have one camera. Okay, oil. We've got 1/3 of a cup of coconut oil. This should be interesting. I've never used coconut oil in my life. I bought it specifically for this. 1/3 of a cup of honey. This is fun. Getting honey out of a bowl is a disaster in and of itself. When I edit this back and look at it, if I hate it, you will never see it. It will never see the light of day. But you know, since I'm working from home, and by home I mean someone else's apartment, because I don't want to spend quarantine by myself. Alright, so we've got oil, honey, 2 eggs. Hope that's right. Yep, that is correct. 2 eggs. And 3 cups of this flour. I already put the cup measurements. But we have another one. So 3 cups. This recipe calls for bread flour or white wheat flour. I used bread flour, 3 cups of bread flour and 3 cups of wheat flour. hope it works. So we want to add 3 cups of that to this mixture. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And we want to use the paddle attachment for this. I don't know how to lift this. Okay, there we go. Paddle attachment, in case you don't know, this is what it looks like. I'm a beauty guru now. Ah, it focused. Okay, there we go. You know what also helps that I just realized? Make sure you plug in your stand mixer. Otherwise, you'll look like a doofus. Alright, so the recipe says to mix this on speed 1 for 10 minutes. Ooh. That's speed 1 for 10 minutes. And of course, as soon as I'm on this, my battery is dying. Okay, well, I'm not gonna make you sit through 10 minutes of this, so we'll reconvene once it's mixed for 10 minutes. Stop. Okay, so this is very warm because it's been working hard. So the next thing that we're supposed to do is take the dough out of the mixer bowl and put it into a greased bowl and then turn it so that the oil can actually coat the whole thing. Now the cool thing is, I'm a huge proponent of these bowls. Okay, this is why there's one in this apartment. My friend knows that I am a big fan of this, the person whose apartment I'm staying in. These are Pyrex bowls. They're the yellow Pyrex bowl. Sometimes they're called the 404 bowls. You can find them on the internet. You can find them at flea markets, Goodwills, wherever you can find them. These are the best bowls in the world, okay? So we're gonna put this out into that, hopefully. If I can unlock it. Oh yeah, there's some gluten formation for sure. You can probably hear the cutest dog in the world playing with a toy right now. If we're lucky, I'll put a shot of him in here. So, oh my gosh, you can't even see this. So yeah, gluten has definitely formed. I'm going to try to get it off of the hook here that you can see. Yeah. Cool. Definitely smells like bread. I've knocked everything over. So yeah, you can see here it's really brown because I put wheat flour into it. Thought that would just make it a good bread. The recipe says you can add oil if you feel like it's too sticky, but no more than 1/4 cup. Or add flour, not oil. Beauregard, are you okay? He has a hedgehog, and he thinks it's the best toy he's ever owned in his life. So we're gonna just turn this out of the stand mixer's bowl into, God, it is really sticky. Okay, 1 second. We're gonna open up a little bit of extra bench flour. I'll put that on top of here. I'm just using all-purpose bench flour, not much, definitely not more than 1/4 cup, to try and help me get it out of here. Because it is super sticky. We're gonna roll it around in that just a little in this bowl. Don't worry, my hands are clean. Trust me, they are cleaner than I think they've ever been in my entire life. Because they are super dry. And kind of painful, if I'm being honest. But you know, with the state of a global pandemic, we want to make sure that we are washing our hands and doing what we're supposed to and making Andy Bashir very happy. So, here is our giant ball of dough. We're gonna put it in this bowl here, and we're gonna turn it a bunch of times so that we get oil all the way around it. We're not really gonna knead it yet. I think I just wanna let it sit here, And then one of the big things is the recipe's gonna ask you to cover it. Excuse me while I wash my hands. Again, something everyone should be doing. So let's see if we can make sure this is 20 seconds. I've been doing a lot of Shakespeare for 20 seconds, which makes me officially the biggest theater nerd on the planet. But my students will understand. But once we're done with that, it wants us to cover it. Now, something that other people know about me as well is that I don't believe in paper products. My poor students that watch this are gonna know Jeremy's a giant hippie. Okay, so what we're gonna do instead of putting a paper towel or saran wrap over it, so we're gonna take a dish towel, something that looks just like this, and we're literally just gonna lay it over top of it. And that is completely sufficient for what we're asking it to do. We're asking the yeast that's in it to start to work and build up gas bubbles and start to react with everything else that we put in there, the salt, the sugars, and all that. And then we're gonna let this sit for about 45 minutes to an hour. So I'm gonna set a 45-minute timer and then we'll wait and see what happens. If it's not doubled in size, I'm not gonna work with it. I'm gonna let it go for another 15 minutes and then we'll be back here. Cool. All right, hey Google, set a timer for 45 minutes. Hey Google, set a timer for 45 minutes.
All right, 45 minutes, and we're starting now.
Thanks. Okay, so we're back at a different angle, which means the lighting's gonna be different. You're under the stove hood. So, what I want you to see though, really cool, is that this has risen and really doubled in size. So according to our recipe, what we want to do is we want to first, before I do anything, I'm going to flour this cutting board. Bless my heart, I can't remember what the word for cutting board is. So I'm just going to throw some all-purpose flour onto the cutting board to make sure that it is essentially non-stick when we start to work with this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to poke the dough down a little bit. We're pushing down some of that air that we talked about earlier that the yeast is doing for us. And then we're going to, we're really gonna like knead it a little bit, just a little. I don't want to really push a ton of this down because it's gonna have to rise again. But I do want to get it like to a shape that I recognize, which would be like a big ball, essentially. I'm sorry, Beauregard, I know you're staring at me wondering what the heck I'm doing. So essentially what I've got is like this giant ball of dough now. So what we want to do is we want to take this and split it into 2 loaves, essentially, because this recipe makes 2 loaves of bread. Let me grab another tool, if I can find it. What we need is this, which is a bench scraper. And what we want to do is we want to take this dough and we want to divide it in half. And usually I'm pretty good with spatial awareness, so let's see if I get this right. Haha, looks okay. So we're going to take this, divide it in half, shape it into 2 loaves, and put it into 2 greased pans. It calls for 9-inch pans. I think these are 4x8 pans. I think that they will do fine with this. So what I'm going to do is really kind of make a loaf shape, pushing underneath it so that the open side that we've got is underneath, and we're going to place it right into a loafed pan like so. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing. I put vegetable oil in both of these, so even though I've turned this dough inward towards itself and kind of put the bottom together, what I'm hoping is that since it's done like that, it will be able to rise within this. And then we're going to take both of these loaf pans, sit them down here, and we're going to take this same towel that we just used, and we're going to cover them again. And the fun thing is we are actually going to let these rise for another 45 minutes. So what that's going to do is it's going to essentially fill up a lot of what this loaf pan is, because if you all looked a second ago, you saw that there was like space around them, but this should allow them to rise and fill that up before we actually bake it. So fun times. But we're going to wait another 45 minutes and then we will be back to put them in the oven. Look at how good they look already. Okay, both of them look incredible already. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take them and we're gonna put them in a 375-degree oven. And we're gonna do that for approximately 30 minutes or until the loaf sounds hollow when tapped. Okay, so we're gonna say about a half hour in the oven, but they look incredible, so that's gonna be really, really cool. They look really brown, which is awesome because of that, I don't know how the color correction looks on this camera, but they look really brown because of the wheat flour that I put in them. But here we go. Ooh. Hey Google, set a timer for 30 minutes.
Sure, 30 minutes. And we're starting now.
And here's to hoping that actually works out. Oh my gosh. So this looks incredible, just so we're clear. But the thing about this stuff is we're supposed to let it sit in these pans for about 10 minutes before we try to put it out on a cooling rack, which I do have. I have a cooling rack here. Can you see that? Yeah. So we're gonna let this rest for about 10 minutes within these pans so that everything cools down a little bit, and then we're gonna flip them out of these cooling racks. Cooling racks. I can't talk. I'm not gonna cut it on camera just because I want to wait until we actually eat it to cut it. But this looks incredible. Like, if that doesn't look great to you, I don't know what you're thinking. Cause like, okay, it looks a lot darker on camera, but that's not that dark. It is. It smells incredible. It looks incredible. I really think this is a good recipe if you have a KitchenAid stand mixer or a stand mixer in general. But yeah, so this has been my first and maybe only cooking video. Thanks for watching.